Hey, welcome to episode 7 of the Bad Batch podcast. I'm your co-host, Justin Samoy, and I'm here with Drew Crispo.
What's up?
And BJ Davis.
Hello.
And today we are very excited to announce our very first guest on the Bad Batch podcast. We have Brandon FRYER.
Hello. This is a very honoring and exciting moment to be the first premier guest of the illustrious Bad Batch podcast. I'm just extremely happy to be here. And I just couldn't thank you guys enough for, honoring me in such a special way. Because I'm so much better than like all of our other friends. So it kind of just made sense that I'm the first guest.
It does make sense.
Let's
go. Makes a lot of sense.
Word. I think I know what it means on context clues, but we're gonna stop talking about that. So Pryor, would you like to give us an overview of Solo, like your thoughts or just the movie itself?
Yeah. So obviously, I guess you can tell in the headlights or headlines of the episode, we are gathered here to talk about the amazing film Solo, a Star Wars story. Is it called a Star Wars story or a Star Wars movie?
A Star Wars story.
A Star Wars story. So I literally, probably like 30 minutes before we got on here, I just finished watching the movie. Because I obviously needed to rewatch it for this specific purpose. But I loafed around way too long, and I literally didn't even have work today. Literally didn't have work today, and I just felt like death all day. So finally found the time to squeeze that in. But
it's the perfect time to rip Solo is when you feel like that.
Honestly, yeah. Now it's like fresh in my head.
So that might be how they treated it. They're like, all right, let's just throw Solo out there now.
I mean, it's how it felt, No, I'm just kidding. But basically, for those of you who are listening and haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, obviously. But also basically the overview is, I think I read on where exactly the timeline of the movie is, but it's basically just, kind of Han Solo's, summary of his life, like kind of like a mini like biography of like a point in time of his life about, I think, 10 years before episode 4, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's somewhere like around that timeline.
Yeah, somewhere in that time frame, where he goes on a journey, kind of sets everything up for his life. Chewbacca, Lando, all those guys basically setting up their story going into that next phase of their life in between episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think it's around 7 years after episode 3.
Yeah,
you just kind of like get an overview of literally like all the questions surrounding Han Solo is pretty much they just like answer them and basically just like put it right in front of your face.
Yeah, so in a way, I think it was really like before rewatching it, I was like, did I even learn anything more about Han Solo? Like, I literally couldn't remember.
Yeah.
After rewatching it, I was like, it kind of gives you more insight about who he was before he became made a name for himself, basically. Obviously, I think when you're watching like episodes 4 through 6, everyone knows who he is as like this, low key, like asshole, smarky guy who just like runs around, does whatever he wants, tries to get away with it. He really likes to play with fight fire with fire, basically.
Yeah.
So
I think probably like the best way to like put this movie, if someone hasn't seen it or like is wondering what it's about, like as an overview, the best way to probably say it's just like a fun space adventure movie. It's not necessarily like essential to the rest of the overarching storyline of Star Wars in general. Like it doesn't have any like moments that are so far that are completely impacted in different stuff. Like it's just like it's like a good add-on if you want to like know more about I guess Han or like Lando and like that situation there. Like you can get away with not watching it, but it's definitely like a fun movie in general, I think, to add like more layers to Han Solo as a character and Lando.
The movie is a time heist, and it's or not time heist, space heist, and then it's like the Ant-Man of
It is like it really is
Star
like
Wars
the,
universe.
It's like, do we need to know more about this guy? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't need
But-
to.
oh, that's why they call him Solo.
That's basically it.
Yeah, so everything you know about Han, it just gives you a reasoning why. Like, how did he get the Millennium Falcon? How he met Chewbacca? How he got his name? How he got his gun?
How he knows Lando, like
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
became like best friends, basically.
How they love each other so much.
They're just such tight boys. You know, it's so awesome to see. I don't know. Who do you think would win a fist fight? The older versions or the younger versions?
Oh,
Older Han, younger Lando.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Old Han can kick a lot of people. He'll kick my ass, and he's 85.
The fun fact about Harrison Ford, he just like crashes planes
What?
and like lives.
He did do
Like,
that.
That's why I think he could definitely kick this other guy's ass. What's the younger guy's name? I always
Holden
forget.
Ehrenreich.
What, is he in other things? I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
I know this.
He's in
He's in a
Hell's-
show on Peacock that I actually want to start.
I guess that's a good segue into like overall for everybody. What did we think of Alden Ehrenreich's portrayal as him, and like compared to Harrison
Mhm.
Ford, and like everybody's opinions on that?
I can start that off. Basically, my overall like rating of the movie, I would say it was like a very like hard 7 out of 10. Not a soft one, like a hard 7 out of 10. Basically, like you said, you can really go without seeing it and still have pretty much the same set of knowledge of like Star Wars and like the timeline of like of pretty much all the Star Wars timeline.
Mhm.
But I think it was a solid addition to the story and kind of gives a decent, background of Han Solo's life, in this like timeline of Star Wars. Because honestly, like when I was watching it, it's like, yeah, like the guy, I personally, and I think a lot of people on the online bash this guy. I did not give him really the time of day when I first initially watched it in theaters.
Mhm.
I saw that and I was like, this guy, even just now, like or like an hour ago, I was like, this guy's corny. Like,
Yeah.
but like
After I
the
watched it,
movie's
I
corny.
remember you text me. You're like, "Oh, I hate this guy. He's so corny."
Yeah, like I mean, but the overall movie, like the kind of humor that they have in this movie is kind of corny. So you kind of just like understand the vibe of the movie, but like the acting itself was filmed like very well. Like it was filmed very well. It's so pleasing to look at. So I love about these new Star Wars movies is that they're so like beautiful looking. Whether
Yeah,
I
the
like
quality
think
is
the
really,
movie's
really
great or not, like the acting, but like acting in this one in particular overall is a lot better than the other ones. Because they
Yeah.
have such a great cast with like Paul Bettany, like Amelia Clarke.
Yeah, this cast was unbelievable. Like you forget like Woody Harrelson's in it,
Exactly.
Maeve from Westworld's in it. Like you said, Amelia Clarke. Like John Favreau is the Ardennian Rio,
Yeah, that was cool. I actually found that out yesterday.
and Childish Gambino. Like,
Oh yeah, and Childish Gambino.
And we
Or
also
you mean
have-
Donald Glover?
yeah. So
Different guy.
Lando, Rio, Dryden, Phoebe Waller-Bridge as L337,
oh yeah,
Sandy Newton. I mean Alden, Amelia Clarke. This is Ron Howard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess who the tall guy is? Chewbacca. Jonas
The new
Subotai.
Chewie.
So
Jeez, he's
Yeah, this
so
is-
tall.
yeah,
I
he's-
think
that's something.
He's
I-
got to be standing on something. There's no way that's that
There's
tall.
no way.
No,
He's
he's,
like
tall.
he's 9'10".
Yeah. What? Why, dude? Chewie's tall as hell.
Yeah, no, he's tall.
So I think like overall this movie gets like, or like got a lot of flack in the beginning, and like the whole thing about Solo in general is, I think it was just like sold a tough ticket, like, and a lot of people haven't seen it, so it is kind of like one of those movies you tend to forget about.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a couple of reasons for that. Like if people don't know, like, so this movie came out, what was it, 5 months after The
In
Last
May.
Jedi? Yeah. So it was following a very controversial and conflicting opinions on Last Jedi, obviously. So there was like a lot of boycott like going in after that. But also we
They
kind of
changed
forget.
directors.
Yeah, they changed directors. Like the whole movie is
Like
shot
halfway
like
through filming, right?
yeah. So like the beginning of the movie where he's running through those like tunnels and stuff and that like worm creature thing, that was supposed to be like at the end of the movie when the other people were directing, and then Ron Howard made it at the beginning. So there's like just a lot of weird stuff like that. But also something we forget about is like this came out like only a little while after Endgame also. So like
Came out a month after Endgame.
yeah, like so all of Disney's like marketing and advertisements were
No,
just
not Endgame. Infinity War.
oh Infinity
Yeah,
War, excuse me.
2018.
Still, I
Yeah,
think Infinity War had a bigger
yeah. So
opening
like
weekend.
I remember people talking about how like because obviously Star Wars like a lot of their products and stuff are like toy focused and like all their marketing materials like normally come out like a while before that, but this was so rushed to the point where they were marketing episode 8 and then Disney was marketing Infinity War that there was barely anything out. Like there are people saying like at the stores all the shelves for toys were like all Infinity War like over Solo. Like there was almost like nothing Solo based. So that's why this movie too like flies under the radar apart from all of its up and downs through like changing directors, which I mean is just a constant theme with um, Star Wars in general nowadays. But
I definitely think it gets a bad rap, especially with like how toxic the Star Wars fan community can be.
Yeah.
Like I think you guys mentioned it on 2 or 3 episodes ago. I think Justin was saying how toxic they.
oh
It's
my
like
God.
you literally like can't do anything. It's like one thing happens, like the community will literally like attack.
Split on it.
Yeah, they will attack you. But I know like they went through a lot of rough patches because didn't they start out with who were the original directors? The people who did the Lego movie.
Yeah, the two brothers, right?
Yeah, and then like I don't remember their names, but
It was like 2
somehow
points.
they got
Was it the
booed.
Russo brothers?
No.
No.
No, I don't think they're people who flew under the radar, kind of, but they've done other projects that actually did end up doing well.
Apparently, when they replaced them, they were so like off the mark from what Disney wanted. They said they were shooting it like it was like so corny and like very very slapstick, and it was just like people said like no one had any idea, like there was no like character direction at all, like nothing really made sense. That's
Yeah,
why like, Disney was just like panicking.
that's kind of funny.
That is
Though.
kinda funny.
I'd panic too.
It's just like some weird comedy movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then apparently they didn't even like the guy. Like they filmed over half the movie, and then they're like, I don't really like this guy anymore. But then they switched directors,
hmm
and Ron Howard took over, and then they just are like, all right, we filmed so much of the movie, it's like you might as well keep them.
Yeah, I mean, Alden also had like a really tough job here. Like, you're taking over one of the mantles of like one of the most iconic roles in like film
Cinema
history,
history, yeah.
and you're literally just like, well, hope this goes well, and like, yeah, like you knew going into this, people were gonna hate him. Like,
Mhm.
no matter if he was like the most spot on Harrison Ford, like even let's say like he did an impression the whole time, they were always gonna be like, he was always running into opposition. I guess what I'm trying to
Toxic
say.
Star Wars fans.
I think it was nice though that Harrison Ford gave him like his blessing. He's like, yeah, take it, run with it. Do what you
Yeah.
want to do. I think that was cool.
Okay, but also Harrison Ford is kind of done with Star Wars. So
He hates Star Wars.
probably would've
No,
done
He
it.
actually hates Star Wars. Like
Harrison Ford's done with everything.
like
Every
he
interview I watched
literally
was
has
like,
openly said like how much he hates Star Wars, basically. Like what was that one quote? They're like, what do you think about this? He's like, I don't know what those are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they were like, someone asked him like,
about midi chlorians or something.
no, they were like, technically in the Rise of Skywalker, is a Han Solo a Force ghost? And he was like, I don't know what the hell that is, and I don't care.
Yeah, and he's like, I
"Oh,
don't care.
That's very Han Solo-y.
Didn't I don't know if the rumor is true. Like, didn't he ask to be killed off?
Oh
in
yeah, multiple
Force
yeah.
times.
Awakens.
In
He's
in
like, I'm
return,
only
they-
doing one. Like, that's it. Like,
He got asked to get killed off in The Empire Strikes Back.
or
Did he really?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so
They
like
said they put him in carbonite.
and he kept asking. So the funny thing about that too is like he kept asking George to kill him through Empire and Return of the Jedi. So when they put him in carbonite, like they didn't know if he was going to come back for another movie. They put him in carbonite because they were like, this might be it. Like we don't know if we're
Wow.
going to get him back, and he might just be dead now.
But then he's like so gung ho about doing like a million Indiana Jones movies.
He
where it's
loves
like, dude,
Indiana,
chill. King of the Crystal Skull.
Like, I don't want to do that space nerd stuff. I want to do the lasso.
The
I
regular
want to be a
westerns.
history teacher that whips people. It's like, cool, dude. Like,
I hate snakes.
Ooh, snakes. I don't know. It's like you got to the end of the King of Crystal Skull, and you're like, "What the hell? You
What is
were
going on?
you were excited about this?
I don't even remember that.
And you wanted to leave Star Wars?
I had the Legos though. I had those Legos. Those were.
I like Indiana Jones. I just don't know why they tried to build more on top of that.
Yeah.
Making them
It's like
think
if they try to remake Indiana Jones, you'd like probably have the same problems that and like opinions from people that they had in this movie. Like we said like earlier, like the movie itself, like if you just like look at it apart from everything else, like it's pretty good overall as far as like a Star Wars movie goes. And like we said, the cast is unbelievable.
it's one of my
Like
favorites.
like Donald Glover, I mean, kills it. They like
He's so entertaining.
yeah,
Like,
I'm actually pumped for that Lando show.
he brings in so much star power. Like you look at him and you automatically know who he is.
Yeah.
And then he
You're
just
like that's
brings-
Lando. Like
Yeah.
he nailed the character. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, he acts like Lando, has the same like mannerisms, talks just like him, calls him Han, like so.
That was it's like the small details and stuff that you appreciate when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, and how clean. I mean, the little things. This isn't Donald Glover, but how clean the Millennium Falcon is. It's like spotless white, and it's like kind of like a bachelor pad rather than a.
Did you guys like the solo version of the Falcon, like
Yes.
earlier in the movie?
Yeah, I did actually. I mean, that's another thing about this movie with fan service is how it slowly becomes Han and Chewie's whatchamacallit, Falcon.
Yeah.
Just because they shoot out the escape pod in the run, and then I mean they just kind of trash it. It gets hit by all this stuff.
Justin, what did you think overall about Solo?
Dude, it's one of my I mean, there's like what 9 Star Wars movies, 10. I think it's in my top 4. Honestly, I really, really liked this movie, and I've been obsessed with it like the past like month before we even like stamped this episode. I think I brought it up like the past 4 episodes.
Yeah,
of talking about Solo. I mean, I thought Alden Ehrenreich was sick. I thought he did a really good job, and he actually made me like Han Solo more because Han Solo in the original trilogy is kind of just like a Chachi and just kind of does whatever he wants. And then and this one, you see that how he was always the good guy, how he always did the right thing, even if he acts like it's no big deal. He's like, I'm a bad guy, I'm scum. Like, I think I'm the only one in this world that knows who you really are. It's that he's a good guy. And
how long have you been practicing that impression too?
No, I actually that was the first run at it. It's easier to do people I don't like, so I could do her, but I was nervous to talk like Han right there. But
did you not like Amelia?
You didn't like her?
No, I did like her. I meant like I really like Han Solo. He's like one of my favorite characters now. And so I'm not even trying to impersonate him. But yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I liked him. I liked all the actors and actresses. And like, yeah, all the fan servicey things that we can talk about later. But I don't know if I can give it like a rating. Because like, I guess like a 7 is good or an 8. But out of Star Wars, it's one of my top 4. Just because like even without the Force being involved at all, it was still very fun. And it closed to like some kind of weird things within the original trilogy.
I feel like it's a very watchable movie. Like you can just put it on kind of.
Oh yeah, dude. In terms of like needed for the story, like not needed at all. We knew everything that happened other than Qi'ra and like his original crew. But other than that, you don't need to know that stuff about Han Solo. But it was cool.
It did provide some like cool little like Easter eggy type stuff. Like if you like that whole like bounty hunter world and like the regular people of it, like not the Jedi and the Force aspect, like it was super cool. And like a lot of people like the different syndicates of like the underworld and stuff. So like it definitely answered a lot of like, stuff there. Like just gave that more depth. Like one thing that I forgot about, but on my rewatch, the when Lando talks to Beckett, so like Woody Harrelson's character.
Oh, the bounty hunter?
He was like, oh, you killed Aura Singh. And Aura Singh is from the Clone Wars. And she was like a bounty hunter that basically like mentored Boba Fett. And like we didn't know anything about her, but apparently like
the one with like the ponytail.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was just like a cool little detail that they threw in there.
Yeah, and then actually, I have more things to talk about with that because they have Crimson Dawn with. Okay, spoiler alert. Should we just run through the movie real quick just in case?
I mean,
Yeah,
this
let's
whole
just-
episode is a spoiler alert to the solo movie. So if you like haven't seen it, it's like obviously
Yeah.
Don't
watch it, then listen to this.
Yeah.
In the first act of the movie, Han Solo escapes Corellia and he becomes an Imperial soldier, and then he leaves that to join Beckett's crew, and then they spoiler alert again, just because I feel like saying it. You guys see Illustrator?
Mhm.
This is Beckett's crew. These two die, and Han also meets Chewie.
Well, technically, all three of them die.
They do all die. This is Orsing, by the way. The first act, they do this thing where these two die, sadly, and then it's just Beckett, Chewbacca, and Han. And then they owe Dryden, this guy right here, who's part of Crimson Dawn with Darth Maul. They have to do the Kessel Run, which you might have heard of, which is this thing right here. And in the original trilogy, Han goes, I made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. And people think that's related to speed, but it's actually related to distance. And they close that plot hole in this one. So this is the regular route that you have to take, but Han just did this.
It's funny because like that's something that everybody knew that is what that was going to be in the movie, like or even before like the plot or anything got released. Pretty much like every single person that was talking about this movie coming out was saying, "Yeah, we're going to see the Kessel Run because why wouldn't we?
Yeah,
we know we're going to see it."
The Kessel Run was the best part of the movie. I like
Kessel
that.
Run was sweet. It was also cool to see Kessel in live action because you see that like in a lot of animated stuff and they talk about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like, and it was a cool connection with like Chewie and the Wookiees there and stuff, like to go get them. But that I will say that is also one of my like knocks on the movie. Like one of my pet peeves about this movie is like everything about this. Like we said, the movie itself is like very visually pleasing. Like looks, everything is so like shot well and everything's quality. Except for all the other Wookiees besides Chewbacca looked like they were like bought at Party City. Like if you go back and watch, like their faces.
Yeah, some of their faces are
so,
Really, I didn't even notice that.
Like the one that was like Chewie's best friend,
my
basically, was like
hairless
pretty
face.
ugly. Like
it was like you bought like a costume, like I said, from like Party City. It was like I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, what in the hell is going on?
some pretty strange looking Wookiees. Because if anyone remembers, the Wookiees that we got to see in Revenge of the Sith, like it's completely different looking Wookiees. Like those Wookiees looked like they put attention to detail into those Wookiees.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was because they were in like a prison. Maybe
I thought it was because they were like female Wookiees, but
shattered.
That was one thing that just like stayed with me after the movie. I was pissed about it.
I think my favorite part was the heist of the train. Like I really like that part.
That was cool too.
Yeah, that was
really good.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting Maeve and the little dude to die. I was actually pretty pissed.
They took him off pretty quickly.
Yeah,
that was only
like 20 minutes in.
Who was the leader of that crew?
30 minutes in, 30 minutes in, and like Maeve, we keep calling her Maeve. What's her real name?
Val.
Val.
No, the actress's name.
Oh.
Andy Newton.
She is an amazing actress, and to see her play such a small role in a movie like this, where she was so important to one of the main characters of the movie, I thought that was cool to see her, do something small like that. I mean, that movie. This came out 2018.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She was still probably doing Westworld and like other stuff like that. I've only seen her in like Westworld make a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
So to see her do a small role like this, I was actually really excited to see.
Yeah, and she was.
It was kind of like weird how she like, because it's such like a cool thing. Like she like sacrificed herself and everything for the heist, but then they immediately lose everything they did for the heist. So like she didn't need to do that. Yeah.
I was so pissed. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no. When I realized that, I realized this yesterday in my, I guess, third or fourth rewatch, was that she, one, didn't need to blow up the bridge, and two, didn't need to shoot at the recon droids.
Exactly.
She could have lived.
What
But
was the leader of those pirates called?
Emphas Nest.
Emphas Nest.
I
Yeah.
thought that was. I thought when I saw it, when she took off the thing, I thought that was their like daughter.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. It like really looks. It looks like Maeve and like maybe Woody Harrelson's daughter. I was like, okay.
Apparently, she was involved in the rebuilding of the rebellion in some way. I can't remember exactly how, but I feel like that's like another thing about this movie. Like it sets up a lot of stuff, and then it just like because of what happened with this movie and all like the behind the scenes stuff and timing this movie came out, like it set up so much stuff that just was never paid off with. Like I'm just gonna spoil the ending. Like when you see Darth Maul and like now she's the head of Crimson, like Emilia Clarke's the head of Crimson Dawn, and like they were supposed to go do something, like they were gonna make a sequel, and then I guess Infant's Nest was like supposed to be a bigger thing because they kind of like set her up big time, but then just didn't do anything with her on almost like. Then they ran like one small comic series and like that was it. But there was also that huge push for make Solo 2 happen. I don't know if you guys saw that like on Twitter or not.
But I really
Like a
want
big
that to
movement.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
So Alden Ehrenreich, he still has 2 projects on his contract. So either he's going to be in the Lando show, which really should be called the Calrissian Chronicles, but they really missed out on that.
Do you know what it's going to be called?
Just
Lando.
First name. It's only last names only.
I think that he has to be in that.
Yeah, he has to be in that.
Like
Who?
if they
Wait, who?
Alden Ehrenreich,
Han Solo.
he's got to be in that.
The hand. They
Yeah,
put in
like they're
he's gotta
gonna.
be in it.
What'd you say?
He's got to be in it. I mean, I don't know what else he could do. I mean, what else would he be?
I really hope they continue that Darth Maul storyline through that.
Yeah, what he was doing behind the scenes while he was like doing whatever with Mandalore. That'd be great.
Because he dies in like 4 or 5 years after this. So they
Yeah.
only have 5 years to use Darth Maul until he
Yeah.
dies from
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, yeah. Because it literally could be right after that scene. He's like, Qi'ra, we're going to be good friends. And then he finds Ezra. He's like, all right, I have to go to Tatooine and then die. So like maybe they'll never do anything with it. But
I forget who it was, but you know, like they just needed a big villain to do that, and like Ron Howard was like going to use somebody else, like some random like head of something else to fill that mall scene. And then I think it ended up being Sam Witwer, who's like
he voices him, right?
He voices him, and so he voiced him in this too. And then Ray Park, like the actor who played him in episode 1, like did the body work for it. But I'm pretty sure it was Sam who was like, "Hey, this guy's actually like alive," and then they used him. So he wasn't even going to be in it. It was just like someone who ended up like knowing what they're talking about coming back through, which is great, but also like slightly unsettling that you're like having these people helm the entire movie who like aren't very versed in the background of it.
Yeah, and because of Solo with Dryden in it, Dryden was briefly in the last season of the Clone Wars.
I liked Dryden. I thought Dryden was cool.
I thought
I
he
was
was cool,
thinking.
too.
I was thinking maybe he used Qi'ra.
Qi'ra.
Maybe he used her to get more people on his side when he took over Mandalore, and maybe that'll be like what she was tasked to do or whatever.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with her because she has 2 more projects too. So she got either both in Lando or they have to make another Solo movie or just like a mini series.
Yeah.
She actually is just Daenerys. She just
She comes in on a dragon in the middle of a show and just kills everyone.
The show ends.
Like change accents the whole time.
The movie makes no sense.
So the worst part actually about Darth Maul's appearance is the fact that he's like shows the lightsaber and he's like, yeah.
People were like, yeah,
subtle flex.
People were like so confused. Like, why did he have to like light off the lightsaber?
I mean, I think the only reason why they did that is because he's got a new lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's got a new hand, like mantle and everything, and it looks pretty
show off my
strictly for merch.
Yeah, or just he's just like that douchebag who just bought a new sports car. It's like he's like just walks around everywhere he goes. Like, hey Maul, what's up? It's like, okay.
Oh, what this? Oh, did you say this?
Have you seen this new lightsaber I have?
Well, bro, new saves. He's like,
Saves.
It was. I mean,
it.
it was good that they used the because that lightsaber is the one he had in Rebels.
Yeah.
It's like slightly different. It's like a mix of what he had and then I believe like an Inquisitor lightsaber like added onto it or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just good that they used that because it shows that like someone is fact checking stuff. Which in that point, when that came out, like Star Wars in general was like, it was not. Things were looking like very out of unison, and and it just. It's good that they had like someone looking over small details and stuff because they could have
thinking back on it, I think the reason that they showed the lightsaber is just because people who didn't watch the Clone Wars or Rebels were like, "Is that?" Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like I really think they showed him to get people to watch like Clone Wars and Rebels just so they understand what happened.
I think it is cool that like a movie like Solo, where they're incorporating, original characters from 4 through 6, and making that almost a slight bridge between that and a lot of stuff that happened with the Clone Wars. I haven't watched Clone Wars, but I like everyone I know who's watched it, really likes it. Like every casual Star Wars fan who's ever encountered the show says it's really good. But I like how they're incorporating more stuff from the Clone Wars series. So I feel like within that era of Star Wars, like so much like shit went down.
Yeah.
And having that connection with like Clone Wars.
Yeah. Imagine if they treated it like they treated Marvel treated the Defenders.
Oh my god! Like the Netflix series,
where they're like the flag waver for Captain America or the big green guy.
Oh,
that
would have been thorns and the red lightsaber. Like they don't even say anything.
Oh my god, that would honestly be hilarious. that would be like just the subtle flex of like Disney just saying like, I don't care, like like I'm gonna make these series trash and you're gonna have to deal with it.
Straight up, we're gonna do whatever we want.
But I wish. So I don't have a gripe with Clone Wars because obviously I haven't seen it, but like they have more of the cooler part of Star Wars that like I would say a casual fan's not gonna really know. Like if you've just seen the movies, like just prequels and OG trilogy, and may have seen the sequels, you're not going to really know much about what happens in Clone Wars or like the characters in Clone Wars because I feel like those characters are probably the cooler characters, not Ahsoka. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to give BJ a heart attack. No, but people like Ahsoka who we see in Mandalorian season 2. And now she's gonna have her own show. It's like most people aren't like who the hell is that? Like.
But still,
cool. It's awesome, but like most people aren't really gonna be aware of who she is unless you look her up.
And it also connects with like Bad Batch and all that stuff that's coming out. But Fryer, definitely watch it. The last season was so good. When I told Justin and Drew that I was on that last season, like Drew started crying. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good." It was hilarious.
I really need to watch it because I feel like there's so much stuff in that is really pivotal to the Star Wars timeline.
The last Rebels of that is legit a movie.
I think the biggest turnoff for the Clone Wars is not that it's animated because I know people like anime, but it's that it's 3D animation. So it's like
strange. It's kind of a strange looking animation. I don't think it looks bad, but it's definitely not like an eye catcher right away. You're not going to look at it and be like, "Oh, that looks beautiful. Like I want to watch that." It's just it does kind of look weird.
Yeah, but it's like not. It was
canceled off of Cartoon Network for being too like graphic.
Really?
Yeah, they deal with some like too much. They deal with some like dark stuff.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
I think Star Wars needs something like that. I was telling Drew the other night. I think last night I was like, I just wish Star Wars was more hardcore, like a little bit more raw, and I feel like we kind of see stuff like that with like in the Solo movie. Characters, although their humor is very corny, like especially L3s, and
that was like I was gonna bring that up too. Like
there's like I'm starting a rebellion. It's like
that weird like storyline in like the middle of it just like almost was very jarring. Like it didn't quite fit in just like going on this like completely other tangent. Like, I mean,
I did think her character was not like a good risk, but like, you know, something that they wanted to try. And she's definitely, I think, breaking some barriers in cinema. Even though she was a robot, she makes you think about like, you know, equal rights for other, you know, different types of groups of people.
like the
You
message.
don't really think about it or see it right away because she's a robot, but
you mean like fluid.
You hear all her, you hear all like what she says, and that kind of hints towards things like that. So I kind of like that they are taking like kind of like not necessarily a risk. I don't really know what the word for it would be, but just like
making a
trying to break those barriers and, you know, bringing,
but also not in your face, like
very subtle way of doing it. So I thought that was kind of a good way to do it. You know, with a robot, you don't really think about it right away. It's not like straight up in your face, but
also makes sense why Lando is so attached to the Millennium Falcon, because he really did love L337, whether it was like romantic or just as like a companion.
That whole relationship was honestly kind of weird. I was like,
remember when
I didn't really like it.
Like, her, and then she was like, "You can tell Lando's into me," you know.
And Emilia Clarke goes, "How would that work?" And
how does
they're weird little like kind of like lady gossip for a second. But like that's where you know how they like, you know, some of like their lines can be corny, like being a little more of like the kind of raunchy, hardcore, like raw side, like more adult side of the portion of like Star Wars, where they're talking like, you know, subtle hints about sexual stuff that like, you know, most people wouldn't really like kids wouldn't pick up on. So I thought that was pretty cool that they, you know, were able to slide in stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that they like, I like what they did with like that character, because like she can come across like kind of like annoying in the way she like is always like talking and stuff. Like people were really like annoyed with a droid that was just like put in the forefront of the movie kind of thing. Because like in the other Star Wars, like the droids are just kind of in the background, and C-3PO only talks like every once in a while.
Sucks,
but I like actually what they did with her. Like they make her a part of the Millennium Falcon, and then and then she's like a more important character. Like she has this like huge overarching thing that like connects to the rest of Star Wars, where like
what is it?
Like the Millennium Falcon is connected to Lando, but the Millennium Falcon now is like, it's why it's such a special ship, because it has this like crazy high tech like navigating system in it.
And what was it? Is it somewhere in the original trilogy? I think it's C-3PO or it's R2-D2. They're like, "Oh, this ship is communicating with me in a very weird way."
Yeah,
probably
that's because she's like the ship.
Yeah, I did like how they put that in there, and it like gave a little bit more like added weight to like why the Millennium Falcon is special.
And then Han obviously loves it because he made the movie. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the Kessel Run a little bit more.
I think it's good that we got to see it. Like
I'm cool. I'm glad that they have a little graphic for me to go, like understand. It didn't make sense. I was like, how come they couldn't just light speed to this planet? But because it'd be like rollerblading through rocks. That's, I don't know, the best thing I could come up with.
No, that's perfect. I think a lot of people, you know, who are listening will be able to really visualize what you're saying.
You can't rollerblade through rocks. You have to go through the soft or the smooth parts. But Han did it, and that's how he did it so fast in 12 parsecs.
It was cool to watch. Like, it was a good scene to watch. It was just
you round down.
Great sci-fi like action type.
Did you guys like that big like creature out there?
I thought the maw or whatever, like the black hole thing, that thing was cool.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about Star Wars in general. Like there's like always weirdly stuff just in space, just like creatures in space. Like if anybody out there has watched Rebels, like the Purrgil, which are like the space whales, you just see like stuff like that where it's like don't know, just cool. Like think about.
What I've noticed about Star Wars that they have great attention to detail with
Yeah.
like little stuff that you won't even think to even know or care about. Like you see stuff just like when I watched the Phantom Menace on Friday with my queen Jess. I was just like paying attention to all the random races of like or creatures of people and like space like aliens. It's like there's so many like different creatures and people like walking around. Like they really like put in like a lot of effort into like all of the background stuff. And not only do they have the movies, they have so many books, comics, all the other stuff that randomly gets tied into the background of like all these movies and stuff. So I think that is something that Star Wars really hits on well and really makes it more of a universe rather than just like something that's kind of
and
like in
practical too. They're not like CGI.
Yeah, like
I love that.
In The Mandalorian, if anybody noticed the season 1 where they were the Bill Burr episode where they were doing like that heist, in one of the cells there was like a Ardenian, like the character Rio, who is played by Jon Favreau, who
forearm pilot,
who also produces, is executive producer of The Mandalorian. Just like cool to see them bring that back. So that was a little solo flavor for Mando.
So actually, BJ, I haven't heard you say what you thought of Alden Ehrenreich.
That's Han, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Just double checking. I thought he did a good job. He wasn't the exact same as Han, but like it was more. He was younger. He was more naive. He hadn't experienced as much, so of course he was like more corny, more gung ho than he was in like the original trilogy. But I think he did a good job, honestly.
Me too.
Overall, Solo was one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Just the action, just like the action and everything. And I love origin stories, so it was great.
No, we gotta love an origin story.
Love a good origin story.
Do you guys like how he got his name?
Yeah, no,
I actually did not like that.
I did.
I'm not like.
I was like, okay.
I didn't hate it. I was just like, it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't. I don't think it was bad. But it's just something they just like. It seemed like they just wrote it in like really quickly and then just like.
There it is. You got to deal with it.
Like I thought like going into it, I was like, they're just gonna do it like he's alone. They're gonna be like
individual
Solo. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, let's talk about how he acquires all his things.
Yeah.
So they paid more attention to the dice than his last name here.
Yeah.
As you can see, this is Han and Obi-Wan and Luke and Chewbacca's right here, always getting the hard crop. But you can see the dice right here. Boom. And then look, the dice. And the dice also appear in The Last Jedi. I think Leia's holding them, right?
Yeah, Luke gives them to Leia.
Yeah. Luke gives them to Leia.
Is there any like more? Is there more meaning to this?
So who gave Leia his ex? What?
Han has always had the dice right here. He gives them to Qi'ra. Qi'ra gives them back to him, but when they get to Kessel, Han always has it with him. And I guess when he dies, or at when the Falcon comes back after the Force Awakens, after Han dies, Leia just takes it, or does Luke give it to Leia?
They're like imaginary. They're like that because he was like.
Oh yeah, because
he was projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like also a projection.
Quit projecting, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the dice, which is, I mean, it's cool. They're sabacc dice. So when Han's asking Lando, "Is this sabacc?" He clearly knows what it is, but also Han's a hustler, and we know that about him.
I loved how they put like Chewie and Han's relationship, like how they showed like where it came from and like why it's so strong and stuff. I liked how they handled that a lot because you could like screwed that up big time, and people would have been
just about to say the same thing.
Yeah,
I feel like they could have messed that up big time, but I feel like the way that he met Chewie and stuff like that, I thought was actually a big plus about the movie.
Yeah. So for those listening who haven't seen it, Han met Chewie after he was branded the traitor to the Imperials because he was a soldier for the Empire, and he got thrown into a cage to get fed to the Beast, and the Beast happened to be Chewie. And then Han speaks a little Kashyyykian or Wakonian. I don't know what the
Wakonian.
what their language is called, but
I thought that was actually kind of funny when he was doing that. Like some people hated it, but I actually thought it was like.
he's like, yeah, I speak a little.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was funny. So yeah, that's how we met Chewie, and then I think it was cool how Chewie could have left Kessel with the other Wookiees, but he wanted to help Han.
Mm-hmm. Like something they got rid of from Legends that like maybe some people were pissed about it, but like I think like in the long run it makes like more sense. So like in Legends there was like a life debt. Like Han saved Chewie. He was still involved in the Empire, but like on his way out, he saved Chewie's life. So like Chewie was indebted to him, and that's why they were like with each other all that long. But I think the way they did it now, like where they're just best friends and that's why they're together, actually carries more weight. Because like in the other way, I feel like it almost made it seem like Chewie like had to be there. Like he didn't have a choice. Like he was like
felt morally obligated to be by his side.
And I think that gives spoiler alert for Force Awakens. I think that gives like that scene when Han Solo is killed by his son Kylo Ren. I think that like when he dies and Chewie's reaction, and then his like reaction later when they show him like breaking down, kind of like that makes it carry more weight because like he didn't have to be there. He was there because it was his decision.
Yeah, it's not like a dog to a owner. It's a best friend to a best friend. So it was nice.
I think they got their chemistry right too. Like when he was like, how did you know how to do that? And Chewie says something. He's like, 190 whatever. He's like, you look great.
He goes, that's too long. We're gonna have to come up with a nickname or something.
Yeah.
Chewbacca.
He's like, I'm not saying that every time.
So yeah, that's how he meets Chewie. Aw. And then how he gets the DL-44, his pistol. It's just built in front of him by Woody Harrelson. Beckett just gives it to him. And there's a scope on a pistol. Doesn't matter. They all shoot one-handed anyway for some reason.
Yeah, they literally don't. Like you don't see him use it or anything. Like he doesn't use the scope. He doesn't need the scope. But I would like to see one day, like I don't know, if they like did like the let's say the Lando show, something like that. He like actually uses it for like literally no reason. But they try to make it seem so much more useful than it actually is.
It's like a spoiler.
Like, be serious about it. No, don't even like make it like comic relief. Like make it a serious thing because I would think that'd be so damn funny. He's just like
really. I think somebody should point out that there's a scope on it, and he's like, "Oh, I never use that thing." Yeah. That would be funny.
It's a spoiler on the minivan. That's what the scope is.
He could hit somebody on another planet.
You could like see across the galaxy. He's like, "I had this the whole time."
It just has like, all this wicked use.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to talk about, in every Star Wars movie, they, including The Last Jedi, but they always say I have a bad feeling about this, but it's BB-8 who says it. In this one, they kind of play with it a little bit, and it's Han saying, I have a really good feeling about this.
Yeah.
So that's cool that they kind of changed it, because Han, throughout the whole film, he's like, yeah, no, it's going to work. Like
the blind optimism.
Yeah, and it like almost goes wrong every time, but somehow it like works out. So in his eyes, he's like, yeah, it always does work. But like, no, you got lucky. But it's the dice.
And that's cool too, because it shows like how he was when he was like young, how he's like naive and just like that sense of invincibility when you're like 18 years old.
Exactly.
Was he 18?
No, I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Drew felt invincible at 18.
I still am invincible.
I don't know. I think Harrison Ford was like 35 when he first started Star Wars.
But like, how old are all these characters even supposed to be? Like, even when you're watching like other Star Wars films, like I don't even think unless you have like some biography and like, you know, a Wikipedia page for all the characters. But like when you're watching them, you really don't know how.
Luke and Leia are 19 in the first one.
Okay.
And then Han's like 25, but he's
definitely older.
I think he was like 30 something.
Yeah.
Like the character?
I think he was like 30.
Well, yeah,
in Solo he was 20 something, which is almost 10 before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. So
But
then,
like, yeah, like a character who his age is all over the place. Because you've played Fallen Order,
yeah,
so you know Saw Gerrera. But in the clone in like Rebels, he looks young, but he's older than he's supposed to be in Fallen Order, where he still looks like Forrest Whitaker old, and then in Rogue One, he's old, just like so. And he's supposed to be like 45, like the whole time. So
Forrest Whitaker.
yeah, and he's like 55.
So yeah, he was in the video game, right? I don't
Mhm.
remember too much. So that's the same exact character from Rogue One.
But yeah, he's in Rebels.
I
But
didn't even make that connection. I just like, oh, they threw him in the video game too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so the ages in Star Wars, like you gotta just have to take it.
You just gotta roll. With
Yeah.
I was also thinking about like with Yoda and Baby Yoda, like how the aging works, because Yoda apparently was teaching Jedi since he was 100, but Baby Yoda's 50. Like, so in 50 years, is he supposed to be like
Master.
I bet they're gonna play with it.
exactly a
Be like,
master?
he hits a growth spurt at 82.
Like becomes an adult.
Yeah.
Like, there's no adolescence.
Other people were saying that he's just like he could just be like exaggerating. Like that's the way they might like sign that away almost.
I think Baby Yoda is just like the orphan, that movie. I think it's like that. He's just pretending to be a child.
To be like a stupid little baby.
Yes.
Like Grogu play with the rock. He's like,
It's like
doesn't know how to do shit,
Andor.
and all of a sudden he's like back in his hand. You're just like, oh, excuse me. Like, how do you know how to use the Force? Like in one of the Mandalorian, he just like completely flipped that massive creature or whatever happened. I don't know. He like
Horn.
destroyed that creature. And it made it look like an accident. Oh,
he said, "Whoops."
Yeah, he's like the Anakin thing. When I was watching Phantom Menace on Friday, he always goes yippee or like woo, and it's like, and then he's like, he's in the fighter. He's in that like
the yellow one.
The yellow ship, which honestly, I'm very
cool
slept on. Probably one of the most cooler looking ships in Star Wars.
Sure.
But he literally just like he like jumps in it, and Qui-Gon's like, just don't leave the cockpit, and he's like, yippee! And then literally Qui-Gon and them run away, and he's like, what does this button do? And then all of a sudden the ship moves perfectly. He's like, what's this button? Shoots the like photon cannons and takes down the
base.
Like, the bases like shield generators and everything.
His zoomer reflexes.
At least they like kind of explained like why he's so randomly good at things. Like, oh, his midichlorian count is over 20,000, or it's like
over 9,000.
What does that even mean?
Those are just words.
He's super good at everything, and it's like kind of dumb because people also complained about that with Rey and like the sequels, how she's just like literally has like never flown a ship before, and then all of a sudden she's like the best like pilot ever with the what's it called, the Millennium Falcon. Never seen a lightsaber or anything before, but she's like a beast with the lightsaber. But like
that might be the only thing, like the main thing I dislike about Rey is her ability to fly right off the bat. Like, because there's like, if there's like a samurai or something listening to this, he's like, it's not easy to pick up a sword and be good with it. But like that makes more sense to me than someone being able to fly a spaceship.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it does make more sense. And I'm not saying either one is like more annoying than the other, because they're both just like gassing up out of nowhere and have all these abilities with like literally zero experience. So it's just funny to me, like overall.
I liked how in this they like made it a point to point out that Han has like always wanted to be a pilot, so they kind of like got around some of those problems, but we're just like, why is he flying a ship now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like clearly always been interested in it, and he built the ships on Corellia.
Yeah.
And then also he asks questions like the whole time.
Yeah.
When like Beckett does like one little trick with his blaster, he's like, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Yeah.
I liked like they literally just like hit every point that like someone would have been asking about Han, or like anything that was like big plot points, like who shot first, and they like make him shoot Beckett first, which I thought was just like
You're
interesting.
learning, kid.
They literally didn't leave like one stone unturned. They're just like, we're gonna talk about everything Han Solo in this movie, pretty much.
I'd say they definitely hit so many good points and like connecting a lot of dots with like other parts of like the timeline and other movies. The only thing I say, I mean, that I didn't get out of it was like, I don't think I knew more about Han after watching it. His character just kind of makes more sense. If that makes sense, what I'm saying. Like, and also like to give more of like a overview of what or my review on Alden or whatever his name is. I like didn't really like him that much as Han. Like he's not really a believable Han. But if you think about like, cause some people hated his acting as Han.
Mm-hmm.
But if like Drew said, it's like if he's just like some random guy and in the Star Wars universe, he would be come off as so much cooler, having his own thing, and it would be like, I don't know, it would just hit a lot better. Like it would just be a lot easier to just like. But then if you also think about it, it's like you can also kind of change your way of thinking to like him more. When I was just watching before we got on here, like changing my perspective on him was like, oh, he's just a younger version. He's just a different version of Han, even though he's not, a good Han in my opinion, but maybe just a different version. And then, since he gets older, it's like 10 more years in the future, his personality can be completely different. So look at it that way, and that's what would make him more likable.
Yeah, that's what I would tell anybody that's like doesn't like this movie purely because of Alden Ehrenreich and saying it's like they don't believe him as Han Solo. I would literally just say pretend like it's somebody else, and then it's like a fun space heist western. Like and if you just look at it abstractly, like it's good. Like if you just look at it, like you said, like you change your perspective a little bit, then you look at it a different way.
Yeah. I'm like an easy to please person with that stuff like that. So when I was gonna go into it, I was like, it's not Harrison Ford. Like that's it. Like that's fine.
Yeah, as long as you know what you're getting into, like it's very easy to like enjoy. Because like the thing is, like if you go into it and you like think it's gonna be exactly the same Han Solo character, like you're going in with your expectations too high.
Yeah, like think back to 5 years ago, and if you were to look into a mirror, would you recognize yourself? We're cutting that out.
No, you're keeping that.
Ooh, Justin, you're paused.
Justin's frozen.
I think he's currently cutting himself out of
editing.
No, all that magic happens after.
Live action editing.
Yeah, we were frozen there for a minute, so I have no idea what just happened.
You just froze. We were laughing at what you said.
But yeah, I think overall, I mean, it's just a solid like space movie, like Star Wars. If you like Star Wars,
and it definitely helps that the casting in this movie specifically like was really well done.
With all the side characters,
they brought in pretty big stars, and their overall charisma and like what they bring to the table was just, it hits really well watching these people like be in the Star Wars universe. Because I kind of like the way that this one is filmed, because they're already working with prequel content, Clone Wars content, and original trilogy content, which I think most Star Wars fans really like. Because I mean, I'm personally not a huge fan of sequels. I don't devastatingly hate them, but when you're working with stuff, between movies 1 and 6, I think you're gonna really have a lot of good stuff to work with. Like Rogue One, I thought Rogue One was amazing.
Yeah, I love Rogue One.
Dude, like the Force is like the coolest thing in the world, but the 2 movies that aren't about the Force are like some of their like really good ones.
Because it's like they made movies in recent time within the past 2 or 3 years where like filmmaking is just so advanced. Sorry about that. Filmmaking is just so advanced nowadays that like you can make a beautiful sci-fi film with everything that is out there today. And then if you're doing with like original Star Wars content, especially between the movies 1 and 6, like it's gonna come out like a lot better.
Yeah, I like honestly like I dig these like movies that they don't necessarily like have to do with anything. They don't like super impact any other like storyline of like a trilogy or anything. Because like, I mean, admittedly, like if I go in and I watch like episode 7 or like one of the episodes, like going into that, I'm already going in like critical about like, okay, what does this mean for these other movies? What does this mean for like, does this make sense with this movie? Does this connect? But like when you just go in knowing like that, as stupid as it sounds, like the pressure's off almost, it just makes it way more like enjoyable just to like kick back, watch something that who cares if they like get something slightly wrong. It's like they can just explain it away rather than being like, Luke's a hermit now.
Yeah. I think if you go into like these multi-saga or story movies series like The Hobbit or Marvel or anything, just like I go in with zero expectations now because I think you feel that way about sports, Fryer.
Yeah.
With the teams you like, zero expectations, so you can't be disappointed.
As a DC sports fan, you kind of have like a similar way of going into these things. It's like zero expectations. They used to be really good in the past, and then like it's a little different now. But as long as you have, I mean, with anything in general, really, it's just like, especially when it comes to stuff as subjective as and opinionated as like film, TV, and stuff like that. You really should have zero expectations and just let yourself enjoy it for what it is. If you really don't like it, you just don't like it.
Yeah.
But it's like, because that's what people did in the wrong sense of the way we were just talking with this movie in general. Because I don't think most people listening to this, I don't know if they even know about like all the weird drama that went going into making this movie, or how like, the directors, they were like having issues with directors, people all in upper management didn't even like the main character who was playing Han and stuff like that. And when the movie was released, fun fact, it had a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But now it is at 70.
7. And I was like, what? Like, there's
People
no way this movie was that bad. I mean, I have a couple friends who are probably gonna listen to this episode and they know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm calling them out right now. They said to me that was like one of the worst movies they've ever seen. They saw it in theaters. I mean,
people went in like wanting to hate this movie.
Yeah, like they said like they wanted to leave the theater like so bad, and they still ride that take to this day. Maybe because I don't know if they've rewatched it or not, but I mean that's just their opinion. I'm not gonna hate on them for that. It's just funny to me.
Yeah.
But like it originally got that 7%, and then I looked at it today, it was at 69.
Nice.
But I think that's a well-deserved score for especially everything that we've talked about. I think it was a well-deserved score.
Yeah, from critics, like that's fine. I mean, I loved it, but I understand like the gripes that people have.
But yeah, so overall.
So quick final thoughts.
Yeah.
Real quick from each person.
Sure.
We'll start with BJ. I want to hear more of BJ's thoughts.
I think Solo was great. It was awesome. It wasn't needed in a storyline. I really hope they do a second one. I like the modern action and everything, animation, and I think it was good. I love an origin story.
Yeah, I agree. Like, nah, it's not, to me, like my perspective is like that wasn't necessarily an origin story, but you got origin story vibes, and we all love those. And if you don't like a good origin story, then you can get the hell out.
Charlie Saltine Spider-Man.
Exactly. So yeah, overall, I would say a hard 7 out of 10. There's some things I didn't really like about it. Other things I thought there's a lot more. I think there's more pros than cons of this film. Cons, I would say, are just like, the corniness of the acting sometimes, or like the humor. I didn't really like the L3 character, but I kind of like what she was, or it was representing, in the sense that like, trying to break barriers and stuff. So not only this film was really willing to take risks, it, effectively pulled things off, and then also just bringing in all these stars and having it, star powered as well. I think this film is extremely overlooked, and if people ever get a chance to rewatch it, if they didn't like it or anything like that, I think they would like it better a second time.
What about you, Jay?
Yeah. Alden Ehrenreich, if you are listening to this, I thought you did a wonderful job, and you really made me like Han Solo to the point where I've been thinking about it nonstop for like the past month, over more than any other Star Wars character or Star Wars stories in general. So, but like, yeah, Solo Star Wars story, really loved it. I like the movies that don't involve the Force. They're a little bit more grounded and more relatable because I can't lift anything up with my mind yet. So it's a little disappointing, but I can drive my car. So that, and I get, I'm not gonna say.
I will say that's the opposite for me. I really like the Force stuff, but don't really like the non-Force stuff. But I really like Solo. So
Well, that's good. I mean, I think it did a good job with that. And then with like the amount of stars that are in it, I think they did a really good job with all the characters, with the relationship with Lando, his brotherly love with Chewie, and how he's always been kind of like a cocky person, but how he slowly becomes a cocky, negative person rather than how positive and optimistic he is. So I really like Han Solo.
Yeah. I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. I think this movie is just like a fun movie overall. I liked it a lot. Everything that like went on behind the scenes, it's kind of a miracle that it came out the movie it did. So in that aspect, I actually like it. And then all the connections and like all the, they just tied up every loose end, like, and confirmed everything that we wanted to know about Han, and we got to see what the Kessel Run, all this cool stuff, and like you said, Jay, like the relationships with everybody else, which was cool to see. But I think 7's a good score. That's probably where I would have it too. But yeah, overall, fun movie to watch, and definitely check it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, FRYER, thank you for being our first guest on the Bad Batch podcast. It was been super fun. So, just because you've been so good, we're gonna give you 30 seconds to plug whatever you would like. You have 30 seconds starting now, and I'm
honestly, fellas, it was an immense and great pleasure to be on this podcast with you guys. I think we need to also get an origin story of this podcast. So now that we're on the topic of origin stories, before we get out of here, I would like to hear a good origin story from you guys. Also, new podcast coming out soon with my really good friends Kyle and Eamon, gearing up for Tatooine. It's going to be the competing Star Wars podcast. So check that out when you get a chance. I'll link more details on my Instagram at FryDaddy69. So go check it out, slide in the DMs, ask more questions about it, and I'll let you guys know. Nice. And thank you again. Thank you fellas again so much. Love you all. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope to be back on again.
Yeah, I think
I love a good crossover too.
Yeah,
absolutely. We can collab.
As far as the origin story goes, I'm pretty sure it was BJ getting into all animated Star Wars, and then just us constantly texting about it. And I think at one point someone was just like, "Well, we did a podcast."
It was Drew who said it.
It was Drew.
Wow.
What was happening? I was watching Clone Wars. We were talking about it, and this was the whole phase you had, FRYER, with separate group. So before we even got to that, I think Justin made a separate group, and we were just talking about Clone Wars and Rebels, and then Drew brought up a podcast, and that's the origin story.
Oh, I love that. I know he's really rearing to make a podcast.
Oh, I was.
So, and I'm glad that you guys actually did this, because anyone out there who's thinking about starting a podcast, just follow these fellas' footsteps and really just do it. I think it's a great idea. It's like it doesn't even matter if people are listening to it or not. You're just enjoying yourself, having a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah, we get to go back and like listen to what you guys have to say, and I think it's just a beautiful thing.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, if you guys want to follow along with us, we actually just launched a Twitter. So it's at the Bad Batch Pod. So you can find us there. You can check us out on Instagram, the Bad Batch Podcast. And Justin just started uploading YouTube video podcasts. You want to go into that a little bit, Jay?
So you could subscribe to us on YouTube. I think it's just the Bad Batch Podcast, the same exact thing. And you can watch the video versions of it. Because if you have been listening and you're wondering what I'm talking about, sometimes I will be showing on the screen what we are talking about, whether it's like today I showed photos of the dice, the Kessel Run, and the cast and crew of it.
Mm-hmm. So, and that drops every Tuesday at like 6 p.m., I believe, right?
Yes, Tuesday. The videos are on Tuesday, and the audio will be tonight around 8:30.
Cool.
So also, I totally forgot about this until right now. We made stickers and you're upside down. And so, if you'd like to get a sticker, we will send them to you. And Fryer, you will automatically get a sticker for being a guest. Thank you.
But there is a price to pay.
There's a price.
But for everybody else.
So please rate us on Apple Podcasts so we can be more popular with that. And then also subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. And please message us on Instagram at the Bad Batch Podcast when you have done. And if you could show, like I can check if you subscribed or if you followed us, but just let us know if you rated us. And then I will send you a sticker. It looks like this.
They're beautiful stickers.
Drew has one.
But yeah, so overall, we like Solo. Fryer, thank you again for being our premier guest.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to have you again.
Absolutely. I would like to come back on at some point so like we can talk about the sequels and how much I can hate them.
We can do that.
No,
Yeah,
I don't hate them, but I would love to have a conversation about the sequels because I don't think they get talked about enough.
Yeah, I'd like to have a more discussion on the sequels because I don't love them either, but I will definitely try and be on the side that pushes for
Absolutely. And then I'm going to try and watch Clone Wars, and then I'll talk to you guys off.
And then Rebels. You have to watch
Rebels. And then you guys can be my guest on gearing up for Tatooine, and we can talk about Clone Wars then.
Perfect.
That'll be our collab movie.
Oh my gosh, our Defenders.
No, it'll be like Spider-Man 3, like multiverse,
Ooh.
Or we have like alternate versions of us talking about, on this podcast or on the next one, and then other ones, just like people like
we should cosplay it, dress up.
Ooh, I can dress up as like Justin.
and I can dress up as Justin too.
Ooh, and I can Justin's.
Justin.
I'll dress up as Han. Okay.
But yeah,
you can cut this out.
You got the hair for it. You got the Alden hair for it.
Not the Harrison hair. That's like the biggest difference.
Alden, okay. If there's one thing that I like more about Alden, he got better hair.
And his swag, that white vest in the first act.
His outfits are fire too. Dude knows how to dress.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, everyone who's listening or watching, thank you for tuning into the Bad Batch podcast. Please subscribe to us and follow us on Instagram and rate us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us at the Bad Batch Podcast. And I think that's it. Or the Bad Batch Pod on Twitter.
Yep. See you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.